Hey, loyal listening audience, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again on the Noggin Notes podcast and for downloading it or streaming it or doing whatever it is that you do. Wherever it is that you do it, we really appreciate your attention because it's an honor to produce content and just disseminate it knowing that people are listening. It's pretty humbling, actually. So if you're new, I am Jake Wiskerson. I'm the host of this podcast. It's a mental health podcast that's been going on for almost 2.5 years now, and I'm super proud of that. And today's interview is one with Kat Geiger, who owns and operates a local clinic in Reno, Nevada called Thrive Wellness. And while she and her team focus on eating disorders, that is only a part of what we cover this interview. I think you're going to find it fascinating. If you're an expecting mother or couple of an expectant child, I don't know. The child isn't expectant. The baby is to be expected. I'm going to have to do some study on that because I'm not entirely sure myself how to phrase that. But if you're a couple or a mother who's expecting a child, there's some information in here that you should probably listen to. So I'm not going to tease it out any further than that because I might ruin the podcast. But we are brought to you by my company, Zephyr Wellness. I co-own it. I got to give a lot of credit to my co-owner, Lindsay Bell. We've had the company since March of 2015 when we formed, and it's now late 2019, so we're rolling into our 5th year here pretty quickly. It's staggering how quickly time flies. Go to zephyrwellness.org to find out more, and also we're sponsored very proudly by Audible. And if you have never checked out Audible and you want to find out what the entire world of audio content consists of, go to audibletrial.com/nogginnotes and you can download a free 30-day trial. And along with that free 30-day trial, you will get one audio selection of your choice. It could be a book or it could be a piece of entertainment of some sort. But I love audiobooks. I love podcasts. I love anything that I can put my earbuds in and listen to or stream through the Bluetooth while I'm driving because I love to enhance and enrich my noggin through said medium. So if you want to join the Audible community, go to audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. Helps us out, helps them out, helps you out when you're feeding your brain. audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. You can cancel anytime inside the 30 days and still keep your audiobook that you downloaded. So thank you for listening. We appreciate your loyal listenership. And I will now turn it over to Kat as I interview her about what's going on in the eating disorder world and some other really fun stuff. Thanks, everybody. So in this episode, we have with us Kat Geiger. Say hi, Kat.
Hi, Kat.
Excellent. I love it. We're kicking off with smart aleck humor already. And Kat owns a therapy agency here in Reno called Thrive Wellness, and you guys specialize in eating disorder treatment, but you also do the whole gamut of mental illness as it presents, and you make people mentally well, like we do at Zephyr. And for the listening audience, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more in a minute, but for the listening audience, if you hear some banging and hammering and that kind of thing, it sounds like construction. It's because it is construction, and Zephyr's expanding, and just kind of ignore it if you can. If you don't hear it, well, this disclaimer is just for looks, I guess, or listens. So anyway, Kat, you are a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Nevada. You also know some other stuff, though. So tell us. Yeah. Who are you? What do you do? What hood you rep?
So I am Kat Geiger, and if you're very angry with me, Catherine Geiger. I am a licensed clinical social worker, like you said.
Is that how your mom says it?
Yes,
she
my
shakes
mom.
her finger at you?
Yes, if she were here, she would have a lot to say too, particularly about the fact that I go by Kat. But I'm also a certified eating disorder specialist, and so I love helping people that struggle with their relationship with food and their relationship with their bodies. And their relationship with movement. And we have a whole amazing team of people. Several of them are certified eating disorder specialists at Thrive Wellness here in Reno that also love to help people that struggle with eating disorders.
Website while you're at it, thrivewellnessreno.com.
You got it.
Yeah. Thrivewellnessreno.com. Say that 3 times fast. Go check it out while you're listening, because I know you're probably like doing something around the house and you're listening to this on your phone and you can just pull up the browser. What is an eating disorder specialist, and how does one get certified? What does that training or certificate process look like?
It looks like a whole lot of time and money. is what it looks like. But what it is it's through the International Association of Eating Disorder Treatment Professionals, which is the biggest professional organization for people that are therapists and physicians and all different types of practitioners that specialize in eating disorders. And they have certain requirements. You have to do, I think it's a 2,500 hour internship under another certified eating disorder specialist.
That's like our full-blown licensure.
Oh, totally. It was every bit as hard as my licensure to do and get. And you can't be unlicensed and do your hours. You have to have the majority of the hours done post licensure. So post LCSW, post MFT, post MD, whatever.
And of the percentage of certified eating disorder specialists, how many are talk psychotherapists like you and me versus any other stripe, nurses or doctors? You have any idea of the stats?
The majority.
People can't see you, but
Yes.
your eyebrows went up and you considered that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that question. I've never been asked that before. So I would say the majority of them definitely are. We definitely have a lack of MDs, a lack of RNs that have pursued that additional certification.
So if you're out there and you're of one of those stripes, consider becoming an eating disorder certified professional because we need you.
Yes, we do.
Tell me more about what you guys do as an agency. So obviously that's a thing. We'll get into that thing in a minute, but run the gamut of what it is that you treat.
So we treat not just eating disorders. We treat all different struggles like life transitions, anxiety, depression. I personally love working with people that struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder. But perinatal mood and anxiety disorders is kind of our other big arm of treatment. And we're getting ready to open intensive outpatient treatment for that here in February. So moms and babies, dads too, if they need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of really, really cool specializations in that as well. But it seems like today we're going to probably talk more about eating disorders.
You never know where this may wander. Yeah. So even though the podcast may range in various areas, let's stay here because you brought it up. So the perinatal treatment realm is before birth. Is that it?
It's not just before. It's before, during, and a period for a year after.
Okay, because we typically, I think we hear about postpartum
Correct.
Stuff, and that's after the birth?
Right. And that is, postpartum was talked about quite a lot in the past, and now we've really changed that verbiage to include the before and during pregnancy period.
Are we trying to change it so we don't use it anymore? Or is there still a place for postpartum whatever it may be? I was certainly in the medical field because certain complications happen after the baby's out, right? But as far as like the psychological world, are we just getting rid of that altogether?
We're trying to.
Okay,
yeah,
so we just call it all perinatal because it captures, a whole year, which is a significant portion of time after birth. Okay, so I guess my question is, what is different between somebody who walks in and says, "Hey, I'm struggling with anxiety"? They share what they think the causalities are for that, and then we listen to them and we walk them through a process of healing, versus somebody who walks in pregnant or a couple perhaps who's expecting a child, and they say, "Hey, we have some anxieties," but it's not about the child.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Certainly you're going to be like, well,
yeah,
we're going to talk about that. But
right.
What makes it different?
Great question. So there's so many things that make it different. One of them is that we know that women in particular are the most at risk for mental health struggles during the period of adolescence, during pregnancy, and during menopause. So the thing is that's part of the chemical process that's going on in your brain and in your body, and that makes you more vulnerable to those struggles. But additionally, there's another human involved here, right? So the mom potentially is pregnant with this baby, and so you and I have high cortisol levels right now. That's just impacting us. But you add in a little baby to the mix, and it becomes that much more important to catch things quickly so that baby isn't exposed to those like chronic high cortisol levels.
I've heard some studies that say that babies born in high stress situations, be they domestic violence or job change or chronic in and out of transition periods or spouse on deployment, like high chronic exposure to stress can create a negative or adverse effect in the child, meaning like brain doesn't quite develop as quickly. I mean, these things can be overcome, but there's some neurological functioning differences. Is that what you're trying to do, is to point out to these gals to like be calm for the sake of the baby, or am I misreading that?
That's a piece of it, but it's also for themselves because they're starting to develop their relationship with the baby even in that moment. So it's a family dynamic piece as well. So if you are struggling with depression and anxiety, the thoughts and the feelings that you have about everything in your life tend to be more negative or catastrophic. And so as you're forming that bond with your baby, it's a critical period of time for you to practice good CBT skills, like having positive, good, nurturing thoughts toward baby and yourself.
Keep going with that. I want to hear more suggestions for the listening audience.
Yeah.
I try to give this stuff away for free because not everybody can make it into the counseling office.
Sure. So I think the way we think about the world and the way we think about our environment and even the people in our families changes the way we feel. This is something we know. And so and what we believe. And so it's critically important, particularly during that new period of time when you're introducing baby into your family and into your own mind and your life. You want to practice and be really intentional about being honest about struggles, but at the same time, getting that extra help of developing that relationship if you're struggling with anxiety or depression.
What are some red flags for people going through childbirths and that may pop that we otherwise might not catch?
Yeah, I think a lot can come up for people as far as their own relationships with their parents. Past trauma is a huge thing that comes up. Any sort of physical trauma that they've had can also come up. I have one mom that has come into treatment before for struggling with, she had a past trauma that she was dealing with in her life, and she was really concerned about what breastfeeding was going to bring up for her. So this is something that comes up for moms. Additionally, you have everybody looking up your skirt in the delivery room. And I think I know from personal experience, that's an incredibly vulnerable position to be in. Everybody's up in your space. And if you have any sort of past sexual trauma or any sort of struggles physically, maybe you've had a past surgery or something even, and it's terrifying to be in that position.
And I wanted to add that the concept of looking up your skirt, literally and metaphorically, because when people are barging into your life offering unsolicited advice on how to handle things, that's really intrusive too, especially if you're already vulnerable because you're carrying a baby and you're going through it possibly for the first time, and it's very frightening because they don't give you a book. But there are many books out there written by people who think they know good, and they often wind up with contradictory information, a lot of which sounds like doom and gloom. And I can speak to this because my wife carried 2 children, and we ended up retreating into common sense at one point, which helped relax things. But there's that going on too. Talk a little bit about that process and how it's, how you might identify some red flags maybe when people are going through this, and it's not just something that the neighbors or the friends or family would chalk up to, oh, you're just pregnant and it's just hormones. Mm-hmm. Like what would lead somebody to identify something that maybe gets you into professional counseling to help walk through the process as opposed to white knuckling it through and maybe doubling down and making it worse?
Right. I really like what you just said about how you and your wife were struggling with all these different doom and gloom books potentially. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, we can just trust our common sense here. You have the ability to do that because you're healthy in your mind and those kinds of things. But not everybody is in the position where they can retreat back into that. And so when you really struggle with anxiety and when you really struggle with self-doubt, now not only are you self-doubting, like, should I wear that outfit out to work today? But now you're going, oh my gosh, am I hurting my baby? Am I hurting the thing that's the most important in the entire world?
Not with the outfit.
Not with the outfit. But you do worry about these things when you struggle with anxiety. And I think if you're noticing that and you're finding yourself not being able to trust yourself, that's a really good time to say, I need a little extra help here.
You and I have spoken before. You came and gave a presentation. We'll get into the eating disorder thing in a minute because I think that's really important. Walked into an eating disorder conversation, a perinatal conversation broke out. But it's okay to laugh.
Yeah.
But we've discussed the difference between surviving and thriving, and there's a reason you named your practice Thrive as opposed to anything else.
Not survive.
Not survive, right?
Yes.
Not that we don't want people to survive. We do.
Correct.
But there's a distinction there.
There is.